From the National Catholic Register, this is Register Radio, bringing light and clarity to the news and topics that affect your life.
Church leaders in the Central African country of Cameroon have criticized the endemic corruption that has undermined their nation's standard of living for far too long. This comes as the nation has just held a contentious presidential election. This week on Register Radio, we talk with Victor Gaetan, senior correspondent for the National Catholic Register, who focuses on international issues, but we're going to talk to him about his recent trip to Africa. And then, the Register is continuing its coverage of Catholic hubs. We're joined by Register staff writer Jonah McKeown. Hello, I'm Matthew Bunson, host of Register Radio and EWTN News' vice president and editorial director. I'm here, as always, in our Washington, D.C. studio with Shannon Mullen, editor-in-chief of the National Catholic Register. Shannon, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Matthew.
Well, Cameroon is a rich country that has been rendered poor by decades of mismanagement and corruption. And it just faced a presidential election on October 12th, and leaders of the Catholic Church emerged there as vocal opponents of the status quo. It's a fascinating story, but it's also only one story told in a series of articles focusing on Africa by Register senior correspondent Victor Gaetan. He joins us now. Victor, welcome to Register Radio.
Thank you. Good morning.
I find it almost impossible to believe. Is this the first time that you have been a guest on Register Radio over all these years?
No, I have been a guest in the
Good.
past.
Okay, but it's way overdue for you to have been on, so thank you for coming back to Register Radio. Tell us, though, about your 3-week reporting trip to Africa. What was the genesis of this?
Right. I've been following the African evolution, so to speak, of the Catholic Church for some time. And I decided to take a trip to 3 particular regions. Different regions in Africa, from the historic, from the colonial legacy, as well as from the approach that the Catholic Church has undertaken vis-à-vis these particular regions in those particular contexts, the colonial times and post-colonial. So I looked at the Cameroon as such. It happened to be during the campaign for elections. The elections that were held on October 12th in a context where the incumbent president happens to be 92 years old. He has been in office for 43 years. He ran for his 8th term. He happens to be Catholic. The opponents, there were 12 candidates that were approved by the Electoral Commission, and the elections to date are contested by the second candidate, who happens to be a President Biya's ally until June of this year. He was a member of the cabinet for decades. His name is Issa Tricha. He is a very eloquent individual. Happens to be Muslim, 79 years old. He contests the results. He declares himself the winner.
Victor, explain the position that the Catholic bishops in Cameroon have taken towards the political situation there.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference has been very overt in its criticism of the present government, of the decay of economy, that the lack of transparency, the mismanagement of the governance as a whole. The Bishops' Conference has issued a very tough statement in January and repeated this criticism in additional archbishops' comments. The Catholic Church has is very respected. It is respected by the government as well. I've been told that different figures from the government do listen to the leadership of the church, yet not much comes out of it.
Yeah, Victor, this is just one of several countries that you visited, including Togo and Kenya. What was your overall experience? I mean, what do you think that people need the most to know about the Catholic Church and these countries in that part of Africa? So East Africa, West Africa, and Central Africa.
Right. My observation is that the Catholic, I observed joy. This is a very joyous church, whether it is in East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa. The church is growing, and it is indigenous. The church is committed to engage the youth. The bishops I've encountered, they happen to be in their 70s. They are the generation of indigenous bishops who have been trained, by white missionaries. They appear to be very respectful vis-a-vis the white missionaries. There are photos of their mentors, white missionary mentors, in their offices. They have many stories to tell about their first-hand experience with the white missionaries. However, this is the end of the white missionaries in Africa. They have all been replaced by the local clergy. The role of the missionaries in Africa is respected. It's to the point where they don't stop talking and promoting their what they learned from the white missionaries. So I would say that the church is booming, and is booming in an organized way. I will give you the example in Douala. The Archbishop of Douala has been in place for 14 years. When he went to Douala, there were 14 dioceses. 15 years later, there are 86 dioceses under his leadership. This is the typical situation in Cameroon and in other African countries. How is that done? I witnessed the what we call inculturation, the concept of inculturation. It is difficult to understand from a distance. It became so much clearer to me once in place. What is going on? The participation of the parishioners. It begins with a gesture of reverence through dance and through music towards the priest or the bishop. It is a phenomenon we witness in Africa in particular.
Yeah, let's talk about those liturgies. And I know, Matthew, you have some experience there too. For those of us here in the West and here in the United States, used to a certain type of Mass, the one thing I know from talking to Matthew is that the liturgies in Africa are quite a bit longer, but it's more than the length of it, right, Victor?
Yes, it's definitely longer than what we witness in the United States or in the West in general. And it incorporates songs and music and it goes back and forth, and it is extended to a second or a third or a fourth language. For instance, in Douala is a French-speaking area. However, English is also used in the mass, as well as one or two other local dialects. So everybody participates, and everybody is brought in. They bring the offering is an extraordinary thing to witness. They bring to the priest, to the bishop, live goats and live chickens and rice and different fruits and so on, as a gesture of respect and as a gesture of contributing to the wealth of and the growth of the respective diocese.
Yeah, and the homilies also tend to be a bit longer and certainly more energetic than perhaps many in the West are familiar with. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the choir, for example, is the number of people who are in the choir, the number of the altar boys is incomparable to what we see in the States. I've seen some 50 altar boys participating in the Douala mass I visited.
Sorry, Victor, did you say 50? 50?
50, right.
So that's also a perfect training ground for future priests, which, of course, they're booming as well. So there's a lot of logic to this, isn't there?
Right, and they start very early. The ages were 6, 7 to 17.
Mm-hmm. Well, Victor, we love these reports that you've done. We have Cameroon, we've got Togo, we have Kenya. I also look forward to finding out where you're going to travel next, given these incredible reports you've delivered.
Right. I stopped for a few days in Ethiopia. It wasn't long enough to dig further. However, I made interesting, useful contacts, and that's another country that is in my plans. It's a very, very different from the rest of African countries.
Well, as always, thank you for your reporting for the Register. Victor Gaetan.
Thank you, Matthew and Shannon.
Well, you're listening to Register Radio here on EWTN Radio. Next up, we talk with Jonah McKeown about Catholic hubs. Don't go anywhere, here on EWTN Radio.
Let's return to Register Radio on EWTN.
And welcome back to Register Radio. I'm Matthew Bunson, your host, along, as always, with Shannon Mullen, Editor-in-Chief of the National Catholic Register. And Shannon, I know over these last months, and we have even more to look forward to, the Register's been looking at Catholic hubs. So to remind everyone, what exactly are we talking about and what's up next?
Yes, this is really in reaction to a lot of the negative news that we hear about dioceses across the United States that are struggling and consolidating. We've written a number of stories about churches that have to be decommissioned and sold and repurposed. That's all very sad, but it's only part of the story. There's another side to it where there's a number of places around the country, in all parts of the country, where the faith is flourishing. So that's what we mean by Catholic hubs.
Yeah, and so we are now turning our attention to the next one, which is Wichita.
Yes, and more specifically, a neighborhood of Wichita that Jonah spent a week or so reporting in, and he's done a wonderful piece. So wonderful, Jonah. I wonder if you could start us off by reading the first couple of paragraphs of your story.
Sure, Shannon, I'd be happy to. Many Catholics can only dream or perhaps reminisce about having neighbors that they see not only every day on the street, but also in the pews on Sunday, about masses overflowing with young families and filled with the cries of babies, about a tight-knit Catholic community that has your back when times are tough, about kids who'd rather romp around outdoors till the streetlights come on than stare at screens. But places like that do still exist if you know where to look for them, and one of them is College Hill.
Yeah, I love that beginning, Jonah. So, as we said, we're defining a Catholic hub as a place where the ecosystem exists, where Catholic life can flourish. So, how do you see that evidenced in this neighborhood of Wichita?
Right. There are a couple really interesting and somewhat unique factors about College Hill that really make it a great place to raise a Catholic family and a great place to live. The first that I'll mention is just the diocese as a whole. So the Wichita diocese is doing very well in many measures, and one of those is the fact that it has the highest or one of the very highest vocation rates in the entire country. So on average, on a typical year, the Wichita diocese actually ordains about twice as many men as it needs to sustain the number of priests that it has. And so that really creates a snowball effect, which it encourages even more young men to consider the priesthood when they see their peers, their older peers, becoming priests. There are other things mentioned in my piece that really just show that Wichita is doing very well as a diocese. And then zooming in a little bit onto College Hill. So College Hill is a really, really neat older neighborhood. Most of the houses were built between 1900 and 1930, roughly. It's a gridded kind of cobblestone streets, just kind of eclectic, really nice houses with a lot of character. It's a relatively affordable city. The neighborhood is a little bit more expensive than the city as a whole, but not notably so. And a great thing about this neighborhood is it's a square. It's a 1 square mile square, and literally right at the geographic center is this Church of the Blessed Sacrament. It's a parish that is almost 100 years old, so not super old, but it's a really notably active, vibrant parish that has actually produced 3 bishops in less than 100 years. So that tells you that they've had some great pastors, great parishioners, and we can talk more about it, but it really seems like a great place for Catholics.
Yeah, as you say, the 3 bishops are Father Eugene Gerber, who went on to become Bishop of Dodge City, also Father Sean McKnight, who was recently installed as Archbishop of Kansas City, Kansas, and then somebody who's very well known to our audience, and that's now Bishop James Connolly, who famously is now the Bishop of Lincoln. And you talked with the pastor of Blessed Sacrament to find out a little bit more about what's going on. What was your impression of Father Jason?
Yes, Father Jason Borkenhagen. He's only been at the parish for about 2 years, but he's a really, really nice guy, just a very personable person. And he was telling me that one of the great things about the parish since he's gotten there, and actually a couple of years prior to his arrival, is that the parish has really been focused on beautifying the church. So they did a big in 2020 where they kind of removed the drop ceiling and put in some beautiful elements, like the Stations of the Cross alone in that church are just beautiful. It's funny because on the outside it's kind of a mid-century modern kind of typical looking church. You wouldn't think it would be so beautiful on the inside, but it really is. And Father Jason, just beyond that, was saying that the reverence of the liturgy is very important to him and very important to their parishioners. And so they have been celebrating more masses ad orientem to the east, just other small elements like that, just to make the liturgy as reverent as possible. And he stressed that it's not just something he's doing, it's really something that all the parishioners as a whole by cultivating a reverent attitude in the Mass, even when kids are yelling and screaming, which is great, of course, at Mass. He said it's really a great reverent attitude that they have every single Sunday, yeah, even with a really packed church.
Jonah, you describe College Hill as a place where masses are jammed. Tuition at the parish school is covered by tithing. That pertains to the whole of the Wichita Diocese, which is amazing. And Catholic neighbors are pulling down their fences so the adults can socialize easier and the kids can run free.
That's kind of unheard of anywhere else.
This is the United States, Jonah. Just want to clarify. But no, there's so many idyllic characteristics. I know life is not perfect there. They have the same problems that exist everywhere in our culture. But what is the secret sauce? What are the lessons that Catholics in other communities can take from College Hill and Wichita?
Absolutely. So the absolute number one thing that everybody mentioned to me is the fact that the parish offers Eucharistic adoration and has done so for 42 years continuously,
wow,
which is really quite remarkable. And the fact that the parish offers, I mean, of course, any parish offers all of the sacraments, but the fact that this parish has offered Eucharistic adoration perpetually for this long, it really contributes to a sense that the people living in the neighborhood can really make the faith something that is a part of their entire lives. And one of the great things about that is that the kids in the neighborhood can actually walk to adoration and walk to Mass and walk to confession by themselves. It's a safe neighborhood. It's a great place for them to walk. They told me it's not uncommon to see kind of a gaggle of kids going down the street and picking up other kids off of their neighbors' front porches, to go to adoration at the Adoration Chapel, which is great. So it's clear that any community wanting to enliven the Catholic community really should consider Eucharistic adoration. So that's definitely one. And then this one's perhaps a bit more intangible, but just so many people spoke to me about the really welcoming atmosphere that exists in this neighborhood. A lot of the people, a lot of the young families who live in this neighborhood have some kind of tie to it. Maybe maybe the husband or wife grew up in the neighborhood, or their parents did, or something like that. But that certainly was not true across the board. I spoke to one family who moved to Wichita for the husband's work from the East Coast. They were from Indiana originally. They didn't know anyone. They didn't know anything about the neighborhood, but they were just overwhelmed by the welcome they received. They said they met people at Coffee and Donuts at Mass, and that's kind of the dream that a parish would be so welcoming that it would almost be overwhelming. So this family bought a house within a couple months of moving to College Hill. They were originally in a rental. And I just think any Catholic parish that can cultivate that kind of a welcoming atmosphere is going to do well, for sure. So I think those are the two biggest things that I would mention.
So someone might say, okay, this is very nostalgic, that this is sort of old-fashioned Catholicism. And you even make that note that places like this still do exist if you know where to look for them. But what's striking about your coverage here is that there isn't this sense of a hearkening back to something long past that we're trying to resurrect, but actually living fully, and Shannon, you used the term, a Catholic ecosystem. This isn't old-fashioned. In fact, this is what Catholicism is supposed to be always, right?
Yes, I think that's a very good observation, because as we've been talking about, at the diocesan level in Wichita, there's a ton of great things going on that really help to make this neighborhood possible. And one of the things that Shannon mentioned that I didn't mention before, but which is really important, is that all of the schools, all of the Catholic schools in Wichita they don't operate by tuition. They depend very much on parishioners tithing, and that's like a real biblical 10% tithe, 8% to the parish and 2% to charities of the parishioner's choice. And some people might hear that and say, wow, that's a lot of money. But when you really break it down, it allows all Catholic families to attend school for free, and I put that in air quotes because of course nothing is free, but
right.
Speaking
as
really
a parent,
does
I'm sure
support the whole right. But it really does, like, it supports the Catholic ecosystem. Like I said, it allows the parish, it certainly gives the parishes more revenue, which allows them to offer more formation opportunities, fun activities, like they have a big Oktoberfest every year, that kind of thing. It allows the parish to be more charitable and do more outreach to non-Catholics and to the poor, and it really does a lot.
So authentic Catholicism, it works every time it's tried. Well,
that seems to be true, yes.
Well, Jonah, thank you so much for your reporting on this, and I know we always love the reports that you work on, so thank you for everything.
Thank you both so much.
Well, that's it for Register Radio for this week. Remember, for more news, analysis, and commentary, check out the National Catholic Register online at ncregister.com. Thanks so much for joining us here on EWTN. Until next week, on behalf of our producer, Michael McCall, and always Shannon Mullen, Editor-in-Chief of the Register, I'm Matthew Bunson. Please take care, and God bless.